Okay, going to pick up where we left off last time, and let's just jump into this. And the first thing that we're going to look at here is now going to be. I'm going to have to fix this first, actually, before we get too much into this. Hold on just one second. That's pretty close, isn't it? Okay, how about that? That's a little bit better. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this. It's the same chart, but it's more recent. And now this is looking at the changing pattern of work in the United States over a substantial period of time, over 100 years. And if you look at this, basically this is that primary sector, secondary sector. So your primary sector, agriculture, secondary sector, blue collar jobs, and then that tertiary sector, white collar jobs. And how has work changed in the United States over 100 years? Some really massive changes. Um, and so let me actually go back. This is pretty similar to what you just saw, but you can see it better. So let's just use this one, okay? It's the same information, different colors. It's just easier to see. So back around the turn of the 20th century here, we have about 40% of the population working in agriculture, a little bit less than 40% working in blue collar jobs, okay? Looking at now, we have a really small percentage of people working in agriculture. The percent of people working in blue collar jobs has dropped substantially. And you can see that most people in the United States are working in those white collar tertiary sector activities, people working with people. So we're talking about health services, retail, education, as an example, okay? Most people are working there. And retail really makes up a whole lot of that. Now then, question to ask, are we making less food now than we did in the past? No, we're making more food now than we ever have made. We just have fewer people working in it. So what is it that has affected? And then when you look at this change, what kinds of things have impacted the change in economic activity? Well, the big one is technology, right? So now we don't have people working as much in agriculture, but we've got machines that help us do much of the work for us. Advanced technology, tractors, processing plants, etc. Okay. And so we also want to think about, well, what else is at play with changing work in the United States? Why has it changed this much over 100 years? Technology is one. Culture is changing throughout all of this. Lots of things are happening. People, change the kind of things that they want to do too. Education has really been emphasized. And, perhaps it could be said that education leads to innovation, right? Training in whether it's math, science, understanding human behavior, lots of things come out of that understanding, and we've created more of a greater diversification of the type that we do because education and culture has changed, right? Not just education, but culture is changing along the line. So lots of things are at play here. And one additional thing that I want to point out that we haven't mentioned, or I didn't mention, is tied to this right here. Let me back up. Tied to this right here. Hopefully back up. So this is the first that really talking about this in this semester. It's looking at development in countries, okay? You have low-income countries, middle-income countries, and high-income countries. Now, this is introduced in your textbook in Chapter 1. This is going to be the segue into looking at the global economy, global stratification. So what you have in this chart is the percentage of economic output by country status. And notice that it's broken out in terms of primary, secondary, and tertiary. Okay? Now, a couple of things to highlight. Let me use this other pen here. So most countries, whether you're a low income, middle income, or a high income country, most economic output is associated with the tertiary sector. Most people are working in the tertiary sector. But here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. And I'm going to change my colors here. Look at the distribution of the secondary sector. It goes this way. So people are less likely to be working in the secondary sector in high-income countries. A lot of that work has shifted from high-income countries to middle-income countries. So not only are the changes associated with, let me see if I can do this. Not only are the changes associated with what's happened in the United States, but it's also what is going on globally. What kind of international trade is happening that is affecting this, right? And then you see primary sector, this one right here. People are much less likely to be working in the primary sector in high income countries, right? Here we go. Much less likely working here. By the way, what countries are high, middle, and low income countries? This terminology, we're going to talk about it soon, but this is like first world, second world, third world countries. We're going to talk about why it's different terminology in the next chapter or in the coming chapters. So, for example, the United States is here. Many countries in Western Europe, Spain, France, Germany, England. Middle income countries, these are largely China, India, countries in Latin America. Mexico is in here. Several countries in South America are located here. And then low income countries, these are countries largely in Central Africa, okay? And then Southeast Asia, Indonesia, Kenya might be a middle income countries, but the poorest countries in the world are Central Africa, Southeast Asia. Haiti is not in either of those areas, but some countries in the Caribbean are low to middle income countries. Haiti would be low income country. Something to note here, this actually kind of relates to that chart where tertiary sector in the United States goes up, the secondary sector has gone down, and the primary sector has. So that's happened simultaneously with the shift of work in high, middle, and low income countries. Okay. Okay. So let's see what's next. That might be it. Yeah, that's going to be it for the second part. And that is going to conclude this look at the economy. So thank you for your attention once again. And I'll be back soon with more sociology.